Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday. Happy Friday. We all made it. Thank you all for joining us this morning on Resilience My Story. And my story today is called Learning to Brag About You. I want you to think for a minute, what's something special or unique about you? What's your special or unique quality that makes you better than other people, that differentiates you from other people, or makes you just feel like you can get up and do stuff in the morning? What's that one thing? Well, I'll tell you, I used to be a faculty member at several universities, and one's kind of a larger university, and it's known for being online, but these students were in class. And I asked them this question, and it was in a healthcare management class, and I asked them, what's special or unique about you? And so this is supposed to be an icebreaker. So they're supposed to go around, everybody in the class, and say what was special or unique about them. And I was like, this is gonna be easy. Like one of the things I used to always say is I can use my toes and write with a pencil. And I got that from that movie, My Left Foot. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but love that movie, okay? And so I can pick up a pencil with my toes and write my name with it. Just one of those weird skills because I grew up in Iowa and I was bored a lot. So that's why I know how to do that. So it's like, they're gonna come up with these things. And I have like a class full of 20 people, and at least half the class would tell me, I don't know, there's nothing special about me, there's nothing unique about me, there's nothing that differentiates me from other people. And I was like, we've got a problem up in here, okay? So I was like, well, you guys are learning to be healthcare managers, and because that's what most of my students were. They were in healthcare administration classes, learning to be healthcare managers. I'm like, so we're gonna work on this feeling more confident or capable, or like you have some kind of special unique quality that makes you be a leader. And so I want to stop for a second. If you see the light shifting, the sun is just now coming up here in Idaho. So that's where I'm from. I'm from Idaho, and so the sun's just now coming up. And so if you see the lights changing a lot in here, it's a sunrise. So thank you, sunrise. And it's actually a really beautiful sunrise this morning. We're having a nice blue sky today. Anyway, so the students, they didn't really understand like how they're going to do this. So what I did is I had this idea, like, when I'm a Gen Xer, so back in the day, we used to have like little photo albums called brag books, and it would be like all the pictures of all the cool stuff you did. And so if somebody asked you that question, you could just like, here, let me go open my brag book and be like, oh yeah, I played the clarinet better than anybody else, or I was the captain of the soccer team, or the football team, or whatever, or I won this, best pie, blue ribbon for best pie at the state fair, or something like that. And because it was in your little brag book, which was basically a bunch of pictures. So what I did is on construction paper in my home office, I made the little square booklet, and it was called My Brag Book. And then I listed like things, 5 pages of things for my students to brag about, like things like 5 accomplishments I've had, 5 special gifts I have, 5 things I'm good at work. So it's just like a whole booklet full of like little things that they could talk about. So that was when I was teaching. And then as I was going through that, I didn't think about me and how maybe I needed that, because the truth was I did. So let's kind of go back in my history a little bit before I was a faculty member at a university. I actually am adopted. I was adopted at age 8, and The reason I was adopted is I had been in and out of foster homes as a young child. I think I had been, by the time I was adopted, I counted 5 or 6 homes that I was in, which included my biological family home. And then kind of the last straw for the state of Iowa. So now you know this is how bad things have to get before you get adopted. My biological mother just decided to leave and not come back. So I was 7 years old. I had 3 siblings. I'm not the oldest, thankfully. And I credit those siblings for how we survived. We survived for 2 weeks on our own without our biological mother until a neighbor found us. And then once the neighbors found us, we all went over to their house, and these were kids we played with and their parents. And once they found us, we spent the night, and I will never forget this, in these bunk beds, and it's 10 children in 4 bunk beds in one room. It was a lot of kids. And then the next day, our caseworker came and picked us up in her white van. And I remember, I'm used to caseworkers by this point. Even though I'm 7 years old, I know what a caseworker is because I've been in and out of foster homes already. So she came to pick us up, put us in the van, we're singing songs. Little did I know, that was the last time I was gonna see my brothers again until I was in my 20s. So we go live at this home, a foster home, and that's when we learned that our bio mom was giving up her parental rights. She actually wanted to keep 3 of my siblings, but not me. So imagine going through life knowing that. And then we get adopted by this family, and we had a fairly normal growing up time, but there's no way that being adopted at the age of 8, it's not normal. Okay, and this family, we grew up in a small town in Iowa, very small, I think 5,000 people. And so when you're from a small town, everybody knows your business, and they're all up in your business too. And they knew that I wasn't my parents' kid, okay? So they already had a son. They were from that town, from that county. My adoptive family, they had land there. My grandfather had owned a big farm. And he was pretty well known. He was on the school board, and he was part of the electric cooperative. He did all of this stuff. So everybody knew that we were adopted. We weren't really part of this family, and they knew that. And not only that, but imagine again, I'm living in a small town, and it's a lot, people are nosy, in case you don't know. If you've never lived in a small town, I'm gonna tell you right now, people, you hear how everybody rallies together and they support each other. That's true, but they're also nosy. And for me, growing up in this town, my last name, and then my family's from there, and then I'm adopted. So I felt like I was on the front page of the newspaper every day, which I probably wasn't, but that's how I felt, like everybody's watching me. And that's how I felt growing up. But at the same time, I was going through this incredible grief from being adopted, from losing literally my whole family at 7 years old. So when you get adopted, at that time, we were separated from 2 of our siblings. So one of my siblings and I, we went to be adopted. We were separated from the rest of our siblings. And then we also were not allowed to be in contact with our biological family at all. So I didn't just lose a mother and a father and my siblings, but I lost my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, everybody all at once. But I had this everybody's watching me. I have to go out and do, and that's how I dealt with my problems. That's how I dealt with the grief. It was well, if I go out and do this, then it's gonna make me feel better. And so then I decided I was gonna go to college. I was an okay student, actually probably a really good student considering my background. And so I went to college, and I was informed by my adoptive parents that if I wanted to go to college, I'd have to pay for it. They did help me out a little. So, not too much, but they did help me out. And so I ended up paying my way through a small private college. Back then it cost $15,000 a year. Now it's about 45. And so that kind of gives you an idea. I had a few scholarships. I had grants from the state. I had student loans, and the rest was cash out of my pocket that I made working 3 jobs at the school I went to, the college I went to. Let's give you an idea. It was even smaller than the town I grew up in. So it was a small school in a small town. So the whole shebang was like 2,000 people, and that was it. And so that was a lot, because getting 3 jobs in a little town, that takes a lot of effort on its own. But I graduated on time, not with honors, but I had a decent grade point average. And when I was in that town, I'm a Gen Xer, okay? So I already told you, I'm a product of the MTV generation. And so I wanted to go to New York really bad. Like, I wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to go to New York because that's where all the writers were back in the day. It wasn't Amazon, you had to go where the publishers were. And I wanted to experience New York because I'd read all of these books about New York, and I watched MTV, and I watched the fashion shows, and I was just like, I want to go to New York. So after I graduated from college, I packed up my little trunks and my suitcase and my backpack, and I had $50 in my pocket. One of my professors paid for my plane ticket, and I flew to New York for a job at a camp, and I didn't know a single soul. After that camp, I worked as a nanny, and I did not know this family. I did not go through an agency. I always say I'm just super lucky, but they were, to be honest, a really awesome family. So I really lucked out. And so let me stop right there. So what made me do this stuff? What helped me with resiliency through this part? Those are dreams I had in my life. So I had a dream in my heart of something that I wanted, and I figured out how to make it happen. So then the next thing I did after that, my family didn't want me to live in New York apparently, or something. I don't know what happened there, but they encouraged me to move back home to Iowa. And when I did, within a few weeks, I would say weeks, I found myself homeless. And I had to call my friend at the college that I went to, where I had gone as a student for 4 years. And she came and picked me up, and I stayed with her in the dorm until I could pay one of my friends to crash on their couch and figure out what I was going to do next. And I was sleeping on their couch, and I was so humiliated and embarrassed. And I'll tell you, humiliation is a really good motivational tool. It works for me. It worked for me back then because I was so embarrassed that this has happened to me. I was a campus leader. I was president of all these clubs. I played soccer. I was in band. And here I was, all my friends knew I was homeless now after I had gone to New York. And I felt like a huge failure. So I had some friends who I played soccer with, and they let me crash on their couch until I figured out what the next thing was. And I'm like, okay, well, this worked for me last time, and so I'm gonna do this again. And I got a job at a camp. This time it was in Connecticut. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be New York 2.0. I'm gonna try this again. And so I get to Connecticut, and camp is over. I got an apartment with a friend, and then I lived in Connecticut, it was like 1995. And I was in the kitchen making myself a cup of tea. It was around Christmas time, and I was by myself because my roommate had gone home to visit her family for Christmas. And I heard this big loud crash in the bedroom. And my roommate had a cat, so I was like, well, the cat knocked something off the dresser or something like that. So I went in to check it out, and it was not something that knocked off the dresser. The ceiling had fallen in the bedroom from the weight of the snow because we'd had almost 100 inches of snow by the first of the year, and in Connecticut that year. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I'm like, oh my God, the ceiling fell in. I don't know what to do. I don't even think we had a phone at that time because, you know, we're young women and stuff gets turned off when you're young, and then you have the money and you pay the bill. So I didn't have a phone. The ceiling had just fallen in. My bedroom was kind of more like a closet off to the side in this triplex. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I had no idea. And I started like scrambling, like in my brain, like what are my options? What can I do? And I remembered this man that I had been a nanny for. He told me how his sister had to live at the Y. And I had worked for the YMCA before and at camps. So packed up a bag, not all of my stuff, just a bag, and I went and stayed at the Y. And they had little, it was almost like dorm rooms. And that is, so I wanted to really tell you more today, but that's kind of how I started. And I really want you to know that if you hear what I was telling you, having goals helps you. So my goals were to move from Iowa to New York, which I did, but it was also one of my dreams. And then I was grateful for how lucky I was. And then now today, I look back and I think that's something that makes me super unique. And you have a story and you like that too. All right, thank you so much and have a great day today. Bye-bye.